Chapters 33, 34, and 35 of John Barleycorn, or Alcoholic Memoirs, by Jack London. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 33. I went to Australia to go into hospital and get tinkered up, after which I planned to go on with the voyage. And during the long weeks I lay in hospital, from the first day I never missed alcohol. I never thought about it. I knew I should have it again when I was on my feet. But when I regained my feet, I was not cured of my major afflictions. Naaman's silvery skin was still mine. The mysterious sun sickness, which the experts of Australia could not fathom, still ripped and tore my tissues. Malaria still festered in me and put me on my back in shivering delirium at the most unexpected moments, compelling me to cancel a double lecture tour which had been arranged. So I abandoned the Snark voyage and sought a cooler climate. The day I came out of hospital, I took up drinking again as a matter of course. I drank wine at meals. I drank cocktails before meals. I drank Scotch highballs when anybody I chanced to be with was drinking them. I was so thoroughly the master of John Barleycorn, I could take up with him or let go of him whenever I pleased, just as I had done all my life. After a time, for cooler climate, I went down to southernmost Tasmania in 43 South, and I found myself in a place where there was nothing to drink. It didn't mean anything. I didn't drink. It was no hardship. I soaked in the cool air, rode horseback, and did my 1,000 words a day, save when the fever shock came in the morning. And for fear that the idea may still lurk in some minds that my preceding years of drinking were the cause of my disabilities, I here point out that my Japanese cabin boy, Nakata, still with me, was rotten with fever, as was Charmian, who, in addition, was in the slough of a tropical neurasthenia that required several years of temperate climates to cure, and that neither she nor Nakata drank or ever had drunk. When I returned to Hobart Town, where drink was obtainable, I drank as of old. The same when I arrived back in Australia. On the contrary, when I sailed from Australia on a tramp steamer commanded by an abstemious captain, I took no drink along, and had no drink for the 43 days' passage. Arrived in Ecuador squarely under the equatorial sun, where the humans were dying of yellow fever, smallpox, and the plague, I promptly drank again, every drink of every sort that had a kick in it. I caught none of these diseases, neither did Charmian nor Nakata, who did not drink. Enamoured of the tropics, despite the damage done me, I stopped in various places, and was a long while getting back to the splendid, temperate climate of California. I did my 1,000 words a day, travelling or stopping over, suffered my last faint fever shock, saw my silvery skin vanish, and my sun-torn tissues healthily knit again, and drank as a broad-shouldered, chesty man may drink. Chapter 34. Back on the ranch in the Valley of the Moon, I resumed my steady drinking. My program was no drink in the morning. First drink time came with the completion of my 1,000 words. Then, between that and the midday meal, were drinks numerous enough to develop a pleasant jingle. Again, in the hour preceding the evening meal, I developed another pleasant jingle. Nobody ever saw me drunk, for the simple reason that I never was drunk. But I did get a jingle twice each day, and the amount of alcohol I consumed every day, if loosed in the system of one unaccustomed to drink, would have put such a one on his back and out. It was the old proposition. The more I drank, the more I was compelled to drink in order to get an effect. The time came when cocktails were inadequate. I had neither the time in which to drink them nor the space to accommodate them. Whiskey had a more powerful jolt. It gave quicker action with less quantity. Bourbon or rye, or cunningly aged blends, constituted the pre-midday drinking. In the afternoon, it was Scotch and soda. My sleep, always excellent, now became not quite so excellent. I had been accustomed to read myself back asleep when I chanced to awake, but now this began to fail me. When I had read 2 or 3 of the small hours away and was as wide awake as ever, I found that a drink furnished the soporific effect. Sometimes 2 or 3 drinks were required. So short a period of sleep then intervened before early morning rising that my system did not have time to work off the alcohol. As a result, I awoke with mouth parched and dry, with a slight heaviness of head, and with a mild nervous palpitation in the stomach. In fact, I did not feel good. I was suffering from the morning sickness of the steady, heavy drinker. What I needed was a pick-me-up, a bracer. Trust John Barleycorn once he has broken down a man's defences. So it was a drink before breakfast to put me right for breakfast, the old poison of the snake that has bitten one. Another custom began at this time was that of the pitcher of water by the bedside to furnish relief to my scorched and sizzling membranes. I achieved a condition in which my body was never free from alcohol. Nor did I permit myself to be away from alcohol. If I travelled to out-of-the-way places, I declined to run the risk of finding them dry. I took a quart or several quarts along in my grip. In the past, I had been amazed by other men guilty of this practice. Now I did it myself unblushingly. And when I got out with the fellows, I cast all rules by the board. I drank when they drank, what they drank, and in the same way as they drank. I was carrying a beautiful alcoholic conflagration around with me. The thing fed on its own heat and flamed the fiercer. There was no time in all my waking time that I didn't want a drink. I began to anticipate the completion of my daily 1,000 words by taking a drink when only 500 words were written. It was not long until I prefaced the beginning of the 1,000 words with a drink. The gravity of this I realized too well. I made new rules. Resolutely, I would refrain from drinking until my work was done. But a new and most diabolical complication arose. The work refused to be done without drinking. It just couldn't be done. I had to drink in order to do it. I was beginning to fight now. I had the craving at last, and it was mastering me. I would sit at my desk and dally with pad and pen, but words refused to flow. My brain could not think the proper thoughts because continually it was obsessed with the one thought that across the room in the liquor cabinet stood John Barleycorn. When, in despair, I took my drink, at once my brain loosened up and began to roll off the 1,000 words. In my townhouse in Oakland, I finished the stock of liquor and wilfully refused to purchase more. It was no use because, unfortunately, there remained in the bottom of the liquor cabinet a case of beer. In vain I tried to write. Now beer is a poor substitute for strong waters. Besides, I didn't like beer. Yet all I could think of was that beer so singularly accessible in the bottom of the cabinet. Not until I had drunk a pint of it did the words begin to reel off, and the 1,000 were reeled off to the tune of numerous pints. The worst of it was that the beer caused me severe heartburn, but despite the discomfort, I soon finished off the case. The liquor cabinet was now bare. I did not replenish it. By truly heroic perseverance, I finally forced myself to write the daily 1,000 words without the spur of John Barleycorn. But all the time I wrote, I was keenly aware of the craving for a drink. And as soon as the morning's work was done, I was out of the house and away downtown to get my first drink. Merciful goodness! If John Barleycorn could get such sway over me, a non-alcoholic, what must be the sufferings of the true alcoholic, battling against the organic demands of his chemistry, while those closest to him sympathize little, understand less, and despise and deride him. Chapter 35. But the freight has to be paid. John Barleycorn began to collect. And he collected not so much from the body as from the mind. The old long sickness, which had been purely an intellectual sickness, recrudesced. The old ghosts, long laid, lifted their heads again. But they were different and more deadly ghosts. The old ghosts, intellectual in their inception, had been laid by a sane and normal logic. But now they were raised by the white logic of John Barleycorn, and John Barleycorn never lays the ghosts of his raising. For this sickness of pessimism caused by drink, one must drink further in quest of the anodyne that John Barleycorn promises but never delivers. How to describe this white logic to those who have never experienced it? It is perhaps better first to state how impossible such a description is. Take Hasheesh Land, for instance, the land of enormous extensions of time and space. In past years, I have made 2 memorable journeys into that far land. My adventures there are seared in sharpest detail on my brain. Yet I have tried vainly, with endless words, to describe any tiny particular phase to persons who have not travelled there. I use all the hyperbole of metaphor and tell what centuries to time and profounds of unthinkable agony and horror can obtain in each interval of all the intervals between the notes of a quick jig played quickly on the piano. I talk for an hour, elaborating that one phase of Hashish Land, and at the end I have told them nothing. And when I cannot tell them this one thing of all the vastness of terrible and wonderful things, I know I have failed to give them the slightest concept of Hashish Land. But let me talk with some other traveller in that weird region, and at once am I understood. A phrase, a word, conveys instantly to his mind what hours of words and phrases could not convey to the mind of the non-traveller. So it is with John Barleycorn's realm where the white logic reigns. To those untravelled there, the traveller's account must always seem unintelligible and fantastic. At the best, I may only beg of the untravelled ones to strive to take on faith the narrative I shall relate. For there are fatal intuitions of truth that reside in alcohol. Philip sober vouches for Philip drunk in this matter. There seem to be various orders of truth in this world. Some sorts of truth are truer than others. Some sorts of truth are lies, and these sorts are the very ones that have the greatest use value of life that desires to realize and live. At once, O untravelled reader, you see how lunatic and blasphemous is the realm I am trying to describe to you in the language of John Barleycorn's tribe. It is not the language of your tribe, all of whose members resolutely shun the roads that lead to death and tread only the roads that lead to life. For there are roads, and of truth there are orders and orders. But have patience, at least, through what seems no more than verbal yammerings, you may, perchance, glimpse faint far vistas of other lands and tribes. Alcohol tells truth, but its truth is not normal. What is normal is healthful. What is healthful tends towards life. Normal truth is a different order and a lesser order of truth. Take a dray horse. Through all the vicissitudes of its life, from first to last, somehow, in unguessably dim ways, it must believe that life is good, that the drudgery in harness is good, that death, no matter how blind, instinctively apprehended, is a dread giant, that life is beneficent and worth while, that, in the end, with fading life, it will not be knocked about and beaten and urged beyond its sprained and spavined best. That old age, even, is decent, dignified, and valuable, though old age means a ribby scarecrow in a hawker's cart, stumbling a step to every blow, stumbling dizzily on through merciless servitude and slow disintegration to the end. The end, the apportionment of its parts, of its subtle flesh, its pink and springy bone, its juices and ferments, and all the sensateness that informed it, to the chicken farm, the hide house, the glue rendering works, and the bone meal fertilizer factory. To the last stumble of its stumbling end, this dray horse must abide by the mandates of the lesser truth that is the truth of life and that makes life possible to persist. This dray horse, like all other horses, like all other animals, including man, is life-blinded and sense-struck. It will live no matter what the price. The game of life is good, though all of life may be hurt, and though all lives lose the game in the end. This is the order of truth that obtains, not for the universe, but for the live things in it, if they, for a little space, will endure ere they pass. This order of truth, no matter how erroneous it may be, is the sane and normal order of truth, the rational order of truth that life must believe in order to live. To man, alone among the animals, has been given the awful privilege of reason. Man, with his brain, can penetrate the intoxicating show of things and look upon the universe brazen with indifference toward him and his dreams. He can do this, but it is not well for him to do it. To live, and live abundantly, to sting with life, to be alive, which is to be what he is, it is good that man be life-blinded and sense-struck. What is good is true, and this is the order of truth, lesser though it be, that man must know and guide his actions by with unswerving certitude that it is absolute truth, and that in the universe no other order of truth can obtain. It is good that man should accept at face value the cheats of sense and snares of flesh, and through the fogs of sentiency pursue the lures and lies of passion. It is good that he shall see neither shadows nor futilities, nor be appalled by his lusts and rapacities. And man does this. Countless men have glimpsed that other and truer order of truth and recoiled from it. Countless men have passed through the long sickness and lived to tell of it and deliberately to forget it to the end of their days. They lived. They realized life, for life is what they were. They did right. And now comes John Barleycorn, with the curse he lays upon the imaginative man who is lusty with life and desire to live. John Barleycorn sends his white logic, the argent messenger of truth beyond truth, the antithesis of life, cruel and bleak as interstellar space, pulseless and frozen as absolute zero, dazzling with the frost of irrefragable logic and unforgettable fact. John Barleycorn will not let the dreamer dream, the liver live. He destroys birth and death, and dissipates to mist the paradox of being, until his victim cries out, as in the city of dreadful night, "Our life's a cheat, our death a black abyss." And the feet of the victim of such dreadful intimacy take hold of the way of death. End of chapter 35. 36 of John Barleycorn, or Alcoholic Memoirs, by Jack London. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 36. Back to personal experiences and the effects in the past of John Barleycorn's white logic on me. On my lovely ranch in the Valley of the Moon, brain soaked with many months of alcohol, I am oppressed by the cosmic sadness that has always been the heritage of man. In vain do I ask myself why I should be sad. My nights are warm. My roof does not leak. I have food galore for all the caprices of appetite. Every creature comfort is mine. In my body are no aches nor pains. The good old flesh machine is running smoothly on. Neither brain nor muscle is overworked. I have land, money, power, recognition from the world, a consciousness that I do my meed of good in serving others, a mate whom I love, children that are of my own fond flesh. I have done and am doing what a good citizen of the world should do. I have built houses, many houses, and tilled many 100 acres. And as for trees, have I not planted 100,000? Everywhere, from any window of my house, I can gaze forth upon these trees of my planting, standing valiantly erect and aspiring toward the sun. My life had indeed fallen in pleasant places. Not 100 men in a million have been so lucky as I. Yet with all this vast good fortune am I sad. And I am sad because John Barleycorn is with me. And John Barleycorn is with me because I was born in what future ages will call the Dark Ages before the ages of rational civilization. John Barleycorn is with me because in all the unwitting days of my youth, John Barleycorn was accessible, calling to me and inviting me on every corner and on every street between the corners. The pseudo-civilization into which I was born permitted everywhere licensed shops for the sale of soul poison. The system of life was so organized that I, and millions like me, was lured and drawn and driven to the poison shops. Wander with me through one mood of the myriad moods of sadness into which one is plunged by John Barleycorn. I ride out over my beautiful ranch. Between my legs is a beautiful horse. The air is wine. The grapes on a score of rolling hills are red with autumn flame. Across Sonoma Mountains, wisps of sea fog are stealing. The afternoon sun smoulders in the drowsy sky. I have everything to make me glad I am alive. I am filled with dreams and mysteries. I am all sun and air and sparkle. I am vitalized, organic. I move. I have the power of movement. I command movement of the live thing I bestride. I am possessed with the pomps of being and know proud passions and inspirations. I have 10,000 august connotations. I am a king in the kingdom of sense, and trample the face of the uncomplaining dust. And yet, with jaundiced eye, I gaze upon all the beauty and wonder about me, and with jaundiced brain consider the pitiful figure I cut in this world that endured so long without me and that will again endure without me. I remember the men who broke their hearts and their backs over this stubborn soil that now belongs to me. As if anything imperishable could belong to the perishable. These men passed, I too shall pass. These men toiled and cleared and planted, gazed with aching eyes, while they rested their labour-stiffened bodies on these same sunrises and sunsets, at the autumn glory of the grape, and at the fog wisps stealing across the mountain. And they are gone, and I know that I, too, shall some day and soon be gone. Gone? I am going now. In my jaw are cunning artifices of the dentist which replace the parts of me already gone. Never again will I have the thumbs of my youth. Old fights and wrestlings have injured them irreparably. That punch on the head of a man whose very name is forgotten settled this thumb finally and forever. A slip grip at catch as catch can did for the other. My lean runner's stomach has passed into the limbo of memory. The joints of the legs that bear me up are not so adequate as they once were, when in wild nights and days of toil and frolic I strained and snapped and ruptured them. Never again can I swing dizzily aloft and trust all the proud quick that is I to a single rope clutch in the driving blackness of storm. Never again can I run with sled dogs along the endless miles of Arctic trail. I am aware that within the disintegrating body which has been dying since I was born, I carry a skeleton. That under the rind of flesh which is called my face is a bony, noseless death's head. All of which does not shudder me. To be afraid is to be healthy. Fear of death makes for life. But the curse of the white logic is that it does not make one afraid. The world sickness of the white logic makes one grin jocosely into the face of the noseless one and to sneer at all the phantasmagoria of living. I look about me as I ride, and on every hand I see the merciless and infinite waste of natural selection. The white logic insists upon opening the long-closed books, and by paragraph and chapter states the beauty and wonder I behold in terms of futility and dust. About me is murmur and hum, and I know it for the gnat swarm of the living, piping for a little space its thin plaint of troubled air. I return across the ranch. Twilight is on, and the hunting animals are out. I watch the piteous tragic play of life feeding on life. Here is no morality. Only in man is morality, and man created it. A code of action that makes toward living, and that is of the lesser order of truth. Yet all this I knew before in the weary days of my long sickness. These were the greater truths that I so successfully schooled myself to forget. The truths that were so serious that I refused to take them seriously and played with gently. Oh, so gently, as sleeping dogs at the back of consciousness which I did not care to waken. I did but stir them and let them lie. I was too wise, too wicked wise, to wake them. But now white logic willy-nilly wakes them for me, for white logic, most valiant, is unafraid of all the monsters of the earthly dream. Let the doctors of all the schools condemn me, white logic whispers as I ride along. What of it? I am truth. You know it. You cannot combat me. They say I make for death. What of it? It is truth. Life lies in order to live. Life is a perpetual lie-telling process. Life is a mad dance in the domain of flux, wherein appearances in mighty tides ebb and flow, chained to the wheels of moons beyond our ken. Appearances are ghosts. Life is ghostland, where appearances change, transfuse, permeate each the other and all the others that are not, that always flicker, fade, and pass, only to come again as new appearances, as other appearances. You are such an appearance, composed of countless appearances out of the past. All an appearance can know is mirage. You know mirages of desire. These very mirages are the unthinkable and incalculable congeries of appearances that crowd in upon you and form you out of the past, and that sweep you on into dissemination into other unthinkable and incalculable congeries of appearances to people the ghostland of the future. Life is apparitional and passes. You are an apparition. Through all the apparitions that preceded you and that composed the parts of you, you rose gibbering from the evolutionary mire, and gibbering you will pass on, interfusing, permeating the procession of apparitions that will succeed you. And, of course, it is all unanswerable. And as I ride along through the evening shadows, I sneer at that great fetish which Kant called the world. And I remember that another pessimist of sentiency has uttered, "Transient are all. They, being born, must die, and being dead, are glad to be at rest." But here through the dusk comes one who is not glad to be at rest. He is a workman on the ranch, an old man, an immigrant Italian. He takes his hat off to me in all civility, because, forsooth, I am to him a lord of life. I am food to him and shelter and existence. He has toiled like a beast all his days and lived less comfortably than my horses in their deep-strawed stalls. He is labour crippled. He shambles as he walks. One shoulder is twisted higher than the other. His hands are gnarled claws, repulsive, horrible. As an apparition, he is a pretty miserable specimen. His brain is as stupid as his body is ugly. His brain is so stupid that he does not know that he is an apparition, the white logic chuckles to me. He is sense drunk. He is the slave of the dream of life. His brain is filled with superrational sanctions and obsessions. He believes in a transcendent overworld. He has listened to the vagaries of the prophets who have given to him the sumptuous bubble of paradise. He feels inarticulate self-affinities with self-conjured non-realities. He sees penumbral visions of himself titubating fantastically through days and nights of space and stars. Beyond the shadow of any doubt, he is convinced that the universe was made for him and that it is his destiny to live forever in the immaterial and supersensuous realms he and his kind have builded of the stuff of semblance and deception. But you, who have opened the books and who share my awful confidence, you know him for what he is, brother to you and the dust, a cosmic joke, a sort of chemistry, a garmented beast that arose out of the ruck of screaming beastliness by virtue and accident of two opposable great toes. He is brother as well to the gorilla and the chimpanzee. He thumps his chest in anger and roars and quivers with cataleptic ferocity. He knows monstrous atavistic promptings, and he is composed of all manner of shreds of abysmal and forgotten instincts. Yet he dreams he is immortal, I argue feebly. It is vastly wonderful for so stupid a clod to bestride the shoulders of time and ride the eternities. Pah, is the retort. Would you then shut the books and exchange places with this thing that is only an appetite and a desire, a marionette of the belly and the loins? To be stupid is to be happy, I contend. Then your ideal of happiness is a jelly-like organism floating in a tideless, tepid twilight sea, eh? Oh, the victim cannot combat John Barleycorn. One step removed from the annihilating bliss of Buddha's nirvana, the White Logic adds. Oh, well, here's the house. Cheer up and take a drink. We know we illuminated you and I all the folly and the farce. And in my book-walled den, the mausoleum of the thoughts of men, I take my drink, and other drinks, and roust out the sleeping dogs from the recesses of my brain, and hallow them on over the walls of prejudice and law, and through all the cunning labyrinths of superstition and belief. Drink, says the White Logic. The Greeks believed that the gods gave them wine so that they might forget the miserableness of existence. And remember what Heine said. Well do I remember that flaming Jews, with the last breath all is done. Joy, love, sorrow, macaroni, the theatre, lime trees, raspberry drops, the power of human relations, gossip, the barking of dogs, champagne. Your clear white light is sickness, I tell the White Logic. You lie. By telling too strong a truth, he quips back. Alas, yes, so topsy-turvy is existence, I acknowledge sadly. Ah, well, Liu Ling was wiser than you, the White Logic girds. You remember him? I nod my head. Liu Ling, a hard drinker, one of the group of bibulous poets who called themselves the 7 Sages of the Bamboo Grove, and who lived in China many an ancient century ago. It was Liu Ling, prompts the White Logic, who declared that to a drunken man the affairs of this world appear but as much duckweed on a river. Very well. Have another Scotch, and let semblance and deception become duckweed on a river. And while I pour and sip my Scotch, I remember another Chinese philosopher, Xuan Zhu, who 4 centuries before Christ challenged this dreamland of the world, saying, "How then do I know but that the dead repent of having previously clung to life? Those who dream of the banquet wake to lamentation and sorrow. Those who dream of lamentation and sorrow wake to join the hunt. While they dream, they do not know that they dream. Some will even interpret the very dream they are dreaming, and only when they awake do they know it was a dream. Fools think they are awake now, and flatter themselves they know if they are really princes or peasants. Confucius and you are both dreams, and I who say you are dreams, I am but a dream myself. Once upon a time I, Xuan Zhu, dreamt I was a butterfly, fluttering hither and thither, to all intents and purposes a butterfly. I was conscious only of following my fancies as a butterfly, and was unconscious of my individuality as a man. Suddenly I awaked, and there I lay, myself again. Now I do not know whether I was then a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly dreaming I am a man. End of chapter 36. Of John Barleycorn, or Alcoholic Memoirs, by Jack London. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 37. Come, says the White Logic, and forget those Asian dreamers of old time. Fill your glass, and let us look at the parchments of the dreamers of yesterday who dreamed their dreams on your own warm hills. I pore over the abstract of title of the vineyard called Tokay on the rancho called Petaluma. It is a sad long list of the names of men, beginning with Manuel Michel Toreno, one-time Mexican governor, commander-in-chief, and inspector of the Department of the Californias, who deeded 10 square leagues of stolen Indian land to Colonel Don Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo for services rendered his country and for moneys paid by him for 10 years to his soldiers. Immediately, this musty record of man's land lust assumes the formidableness of a battle, the quick struggling with the dust. There are deeds of trust, mortgages, certificates of release, transfers, judgments, foreclosures, writ of attachment, orders of sale, tax liens, petitions for letters of administration, and decrees of distribution. It is like a monster ever unsubdued, this stubborn land that drowses in this Indian summer weather and that survives them all, the men who scratched its surface and passed. Who was this James King of William, so curiously named? The oldest surviving settler in the Valley of the Moon knows him not. Yet only 60 years ago he loaned Mariano G. Vallejo $18,000 on security of certain lands, including the vineyard yet to be and to be called Tokay. Whence came Peter O'Connor, and whither vanished, after writing his little name of a day on the woodland that was to become a vineyard? Appears Louis Somociane, a name to conjure with. He lasts through several pages of this record of the enduring soil. Comes old American stock, thirsting across the great American desert, mule backing across the isthmus, wind-jamming around the Horn, to write brief and forgotten names where 10,000 generations of wild Indians are equally forgotten. Names like Halleck, Hastings, Swett, Tate, Denman, Tracy, Grimwood, Carlton, Temple. There are no names like those today in the Valley of the Moon. The names begin to appear fast and furiously, flashing from legal page to legal page and in a flash vanishing. But ever the persistent soil remains for others to scrawl themselves across. Come the names of men of whom I have vaguely heard, but whom I have never known. Kelleher and Froling, who built the great stone winery on the vineyard called Tokay, but who built upon a hill up which other vineyardists refused to haul their grapes. So Kelleher and Froling lost the land. The earthquake of 1906 threw down the winery, and I now live in its ruins. Lamotte, he broke the soil, planted vines and orchards, instituted commercial fish culture, built a mansion renowned in its day, was defeated by the soil and passed. And my name of a day appears. On the site of his orchards and vineyards, of his proud mansion, of his very fish ponds, I have scrawled myself with 500,000 eucalyptus trees. Cooper and Greenlaw, on what is called the Hill Ranch, they left 2 of their dead, Little Lily and Little David, who rest today inside a tiny square of hand-hewn palings. Also, Cooper and Greenlaw in their time cleared the virgin forest from 3 fields of 40 acres. Today, I have those 3 fields sown with Canada peas, and in the spring they shall be ploughed under for green manure. Haska, a dim, legendary figure of a generation ago, who went back up the mountains and cleared 6 acres of brush in the tiny valley that took his name. He broke the soil, reared stone walls and a house, and planted apple trees. And already the site of the house is undiscoverable. The location of the stone walls may be deduced from the configuration of the landscape, and I am renewing the battle, putting in Angora goats to browse away the brush that has overrun Haska's clearing and choked Haska's apple trees to death. So I, too, scratch the land with my brief endeavour and flash my name across a page of legal script ere I pass and the page grows musty. Dreamers and ghosts, the white logic chuckles. But surely the striving was not altogether vain, I contend. It was based on illusion and is a lie. A vital lie, I retort. And pray, what is a vital lie but a lie? The white logic challenges. Come, fill your glass and let us examine these vital liars who crowd your bookshelves. Let us dabble in William James a bit. A man of health, I say. From him we may expect no philosopher's stone, but at least we will find a few robust tonic things to which to tie. Rationality gelded to sentiment, the white logic grins. At the end of all his thinking, he still clung to the sentiment of immortality. Facts transmuted in the alembic of hope into terms of faith. The ripest fruit of reason, the stultification of reason. From the topmost peak of reason, James teaches to cease reasoning and to have faith that all is well and will be well. The old, ancient old acrobatic flip of the metaphysicians whereby they reasoned reason quite away in order to escape the pessimism consequent upon the grim and honest exercise of reason. Is this flesh of yours you? Or is it an extraneous something possessed by you? Your body, what is it? A machine for converting stimuli into reactions. Stimuli and reactions are remembered. They constitute experience. Then you are in your consciousness these experiences. You are at any moment what you are thinking at that moment. Your I is both subject and object. It predicates things of itself and is the things predicated. The thinker is the thought, the knower is what is known, the possessor is the things possessed. After all, as you know well, man is a flux of states of consciousness, a flow of passing thoughts, each thought of self and other self, a myriad thoughts, a myriad selves, a continual becoming but never being, a will-o'-the-wisp flitting of ghosts in ghostland. But this man will not accept of himself. He refuses to accept his own passing. He will not pass. He will live again if he has to die to do it. He shuffles atoms and jets of light, remotest nebulae, drips of water, prick points of sensation, slime oozings and cosmic bulks, all mixed with pearls of faith, love of woman, imagined dignities, frightened surmises, and pompous arrogances, and of the stuff builds himself an immortality to startle the heavens and baffle the immensities. He squirms on his dunghill, and like a child lost in the dark among goblins, calls to the gods that he is their younger brother, a prisoner of the quick that is destined to be as free as they. Monuments of egotism reared by the epiphenomena, dreams, and the dust of dreams, that vanish when the dreamer vanishes and are no more when he is not. It is nothing new, these vital lies men tell themselves, muttering and mumbling them like charms and incantations against the powers of night. The voodoos and medicine men and the devil doctors were the fathers of metaphysics. Night and the noseless one were ogres that beset the way of light and life. And the metaphysicians would win by if they had to tell lies to do it. They were vexed by the brazen law of the ecclesiast that men die like the beasts of the field and their end is the same. Their creeds were their schemes, their religions their nostrums, their philosophies their devices, by which they half believed they would outwit the noseless one and the night. Bog lights, vapours of mysticism, psychic overtones, soul orgies, wailings among the shadows, weird Gnosticisms, veils and tissues of words, gibbering subjectivisms, gropings and maunderings, ontological fantasies, panpsychic hallucinations. This is the stuff, the phantasms of hope that fills your bookshelves. Look at them, all the sad wraiths of sad mad men and passionate rebels. Your Schopenhauers, your Strindbergs, your Tolstoys and Nietzsches. Come, your glass is empty. Fill and forget. I obey, for my brain is now well a-crawl with the maggots of alcohol. And as I drink to the sad thinkers on my shelves, I quote Richard Hovey. Abstain not. Life and love, like night and day, offer themselves to us on their own terms. Not ours, accept their bounty while ye may, before we be accepted by the worms. I will cap you, cries the white logic. No, I answer, while the maggots madden me. I know you for what you are, and I am unafraid. Under your mask of hedonism, you are yourself the noseless one, and your way leads to the night. Hedonism has no meaning. It, too, is a lie. At best, the coward's smug compromise. Now I will cap you, the white logic breaks in. But if you would not this poor life fulfill, lo, you are free to end it when you will, without the fear of waking after death. And I laugh my defiance, for now, and for the moment, I know the white logic to be the arch-impostor of them all, whispering his whispers of death. And he is guilty of his own unmasking, with his own genial chemistry turning the tables on himself, with his own maggots biting alive the old illusions, resurrecting and making to sound again the old voice from beyond of my youth, telling me again that still are mine the possibilities and powers which life and the books had taught me did not exist. And the dinner gong sounds to the reversed bottom of my glass. Jeering at the white logic, I go out to join my guests at table, and with assumed seriousness to discuss the current magazines and the silly doings of the world's day, whipping every trick and ruse of controversy through all the paces of paradox and persiflage. And when the whim changes, it is most easy and delightfully disconcerting to play with the respectable and cowardly bourgeois fetishes, and to laugh and epigram at the flitting god ghosts and the debaucheries and follies of wisdom. The clown's the thing, the clown. If one must be a philosopher, let him be Aristophanes. And no one at the table thinks I am jingled. I am in fine fettle, that is all. I tire of the labour of thinking, and when the table is finished, start practical jokes and set all playing at games which we carry on with bucolic boisterousness. And when the evening is over and good night said, I go back through my book-walled den to my sleeping porch and to myself and to the white logic which, undefeated, has never left me. And as I fall to fuddled sleep, I hear youth crying, as Harry Kemp heard it. I heard youth calling in the night. Gone is my former world delight. For there is not my feet may stay, the morn suffuses into day. It dare not stand a moment still, but must the world with light fulfill. More evanescent than the rose, my sudden rainbow comes and goes, plunging bright ends across the sky. Yea, I am youth, because I die. End of chapter 37. And 39 of John Barleycorn, or Alcoholic Memoirs, by Jack London. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 38. The foregoing is a sample roaming with the White Logic through the dusk of my soul. To the best of my power, I have striven to give the reader a glimpse of a man's secret dwelling when it is shared with John Barleycorn. And the reader must remember that this mood, which he has read in a quarter of an hour, is but one mood of the myriad moods of John Barleycorn, and that the procession of such moods may well last the clock around through many a day and week and month. My alcoholic reminiscences draw to a close. I can say, as any strong, chesty drinker can say, that all that leaves me alive today on the planet is my unmerited luck, the luck of chest and shoulders and constitution. I dare to say that a not large percentage of youths, in the formative stage of 15 to 17, could have survived the stress of heavy drinking that I survived between my 15th and 17th years. That a not large percentage of men could have punished the alcohol I have punished in my manhood years and lived to tell the tale. I survived through no personal virtue, but because I did not have the chemistry of a dipsomaniac, and because I possessed an organism unusually resistant to the ravages of John Barleycorn. And, surviving, I have watched the others die, not so lucky, down all the long, sad road. It was my unmitigated and absolute good fortune, good luck, chance, call it what you will, that brought me through the fires of John Barleycorn. My life, my career, my joy in living have not been destroyed. They have been scorched, it is true, like the survivors of forlorn hopes. They have, by unthinkably miraculous ways, come through the fight to marvel at the tally of the slain. And like such a survivor of old red war who cries out, "Let there be no more war," so I cry out, let there be no more poison fighting by our youths. The way to stop war is to stop it. The way to stop drinking is to stop it. The way China stopped the general use of opium was by stopping the cultivation and importation of opium. The philosophers, priests, and doctors of China could have preached themselves breathless against opium for 1,000 years, and the use of opium, so long as opium was ever accessible and obtainable, would have continued unabated. We are so made, that is all. We have, with great success, made a practice of not leaving arsenic and strychnine and typhoid and tuberculosis germs lying around for our children to be destroyed by. Treat John Barleycorn the same way. Stop him. Don't let him lie around, licensed and legal, to pounce upon our youth. Not of alcoholics nor for alcoholics do I write, but for our youths, for those who possess no more than the adventure stings and the genial predispositions, the social man impulses, which are twisted all awry by our barbarian civilization, which feeds them poison on all the corners. It is the healthy, normal boys, now born or being born, for whom I write. It was for this reason, more than any other, and more ardently than any other, that I rode down into the Valley of the Moon, all a jingle, and voted for equal suffrage. I voted that women might vote, because I knew that they, the wives and mothers of the race, would vote John Barleycorn out of existence and back into the historical limbo of our vanished customs of savagery. If I thus seem to cry out as one hurt, please remember that I have been sorely bruised, and that I do dislike the thought that any son or daughter of mine or yours should be similarly bruised. The women are the true conservators of the race. The men are the wastrels, the adventure lovers and gamblers, and in the end it is by their women that they are saved. About man's first experiment in chemistry was the making of alcohol, and down all the generations to this day man has continued to manufacture and drink it. And there has never been a day when the women have not resented man's use of alcohol, though they have never had the power to give weight to their resentment. The moment women get the vote in any community, the first thing they proceed to do is to close the saloons. In 1,000 generations to come, men of themselves will not close the saloons. As well expect the morphine victims to legislate the sale of morphine out of existence. The women know. They have paid an incalculable price of sweat and tears for man's use of alcohol. Ever jealous for the race, they will legislate for the babes of boys yet to be born, and for the babes of girls too, for they must be the mothers, wives, and sisters of these boys. And it will be easy. The only ones that will be hurt will be the topers and seasoned drinkers of a single generation. I am one of these, and I make solemn assurance, based upon long traffic with John Barleycorn, that it won't hurt me very much to stop drinking when no one else drinks and when no drink is obtainable. On the other hand, the overwhelming proportion of young men are so normally non-alcoholic that, never having had access to alcohol, they will never miss it. They will know of the saloon only in the pages of history, and they will think of the saloon as a quaint old custom, similar to bull baiting and the burning of witches. Chapter 39. Of course, no personal tale is complete without bringing the narrative of the person down to the last moment. But mine is no tale of a reformed drunkard. I was never a drunkard, and I have not reformed. It chanced some time ago that I made a voyage of 148 days in a windjammer around the Horn. I took no private supply of alcohol along, and though there was no day of those 148 days that I could not have got a drink from the captain, I did not take a drink. I did not take a drink because I did not desire a drink. No one else drank on board. The atmosphere for drinking was not present, and in my system there was no organic need for alcohol. My chemistry did not demand alcohol. So there arose before me a problem, a clear and simple problem. This is so easy. Why not keep it up when you get back on land? I weighed this problem carefully. I weighed it for 5 months, in a state of absolute non-contact with alcohol. And out of the data of past experience, I reached certain conclusions. In the first place, I am convinced that not one man in 10,000 or in 100,000 is a genuine chemical dipsomaniac. Drinking, as I deem it, is practically entirely a habit of mind. It is unlike tobacco or cocaine or morphine or all the rest of the long list of drugs. The desire for alcohol is quite peculiarly mental in its origin. It is a matter of mental training and growth, and it is cultivated in social soil. Not one drinker in a million began drinking alone. All drinkers began socially, and this drinking is accompanied by 1,000 social connotations, such as I have described out of my own experience in the first part of this narrative. These social connotations are the stuff of which the drink habit is largely composed. The part that alcohol itself plays is inconsiderable when compared with the part played by the social atmosphere in which it is drunk. The human is rarely born these days who, without long training in the social associations of drinking, feels the irresistible chemical propulsion of his system toward alcohol. I do assume that such rare individuals are born, but I have never encountered one. On this long 5 months' voyage, I found that among all my bodily needs, not the slightest shred of a bodily need for alcohol existed. But this I did find. My need was mental and social. When I thought of alcohol, the connotation was fellowship. When I thought of fellowship, the connotation was alcohol. Fellowship and alcohol were Siamese twins. They always occurred linked together. Thus, when reading in my deck chair or when talking with others, practically any mention of any part of the world I knew instantly aroused the connotation of drinking and good fellows. Big nights and days and moments, all purple passages and freedoms thronged my memory. Venice stares at me from the printed page, and I remember the cafe tables on the sidewalks. The Battle of Santiago, someone says, and I answer, yes, I've been over the ground. But I do not see the ground, nor Kettle Hill, nor the Peace Tree. What I see is the Café Venus on the Plaza of Santiago, where one hot night I drank and talked with a dying consumptive. The East End of London, I read, or someone says. And first of all, under my eyelids leap the visions of the shining pubs, and in my ears echo the calls for 2 of bitter and 3 of Scotch. The Latin Quarter, at once I am in the student cabarets, bright faces and keen spirits around me, sipping cool, well-dripped absinthe, while our voices mount and soar in Latin fashion as we settle God and art and democracy and the rest of the simple problems of existence. In a pampero off the River Plate we speculate, if we are disabled, of running into Buenos Aires, the Paris of America, and I have visions of bright congregating places of men, of the jollity of raised glasses, and of song and cheer and the hum of genial voices. When we have picked up the northeast trades in the Pacific, we try to persuade our dying captain to run for Honolulu, and while I persuade, I see myself again drinking cocktails on the cool Lanai and fizzes out at Waikiki where the surf rolls in. Someone mentions the way wild ducks are cooked in the restaurants of San Francisco, and at once I am transported to the light and clatter of many tables, where I gaze at old friends across the golden brims of long-stemmed Rhine wine glasses. And so I pondered my problem. I should not care to revisit all those fair places of the world except in the fashion I visited them before, glass in hand. There is a magic in the phrase. It means more than all the words in the dictionary can be made to mean. It is a habit of mind to which I have been trained all my life. It is now part of the stuff that composes me. I like the bubbling play of wit, the chesty laughs, the resonant voices of men when, glass in hand, they shut the grey world outside and prod their brains with the fun and folly of an accelerated pulse. No, I decided, I shall take my drink on occasion. With all the books on my shelves, with all the thoughts of the thinkers shaded by my particular temperament, I decided coolly and deliberately that I should continue to do what I had been trained to want to do. I would drink. But oh, more skillfully, more discreetly than ever before. Never again would I be a peripatetic conflagration. Never again would I invoke the white logic. I had learned how not to invoke him. The white logic now lies decently buried alongside the long sickness. Neither will afflict me again. It is many a year since I laid the long sickness away. His sleep is sound. And just as sound is the sleep of the white logic. And yet, in conclusion, I can well say that I wish my forefathers had banished John Barleycorn before my time. I regret that John Barleycorn flourished everywhere in the system of society in which I was born. Else I should not have made his acquaintance, and I was long trained in his acquaintance. End of chapter 39. Recorded by Peter Kelleher, Eastport Medway, Nova Scotia. End of John Barleycorn, or Alcoholic Memoirs, by Jack London.